Political agendas, conspiracy theories, and scare tactics aren't exactly things you would expect to be involved with agriculture. But when GMOs come into the picture, it's not exactly a surprise. GMOs are genetically modified organisms which have become a huge part of agriculture in the past few decades. As a plant biology major, I've become very familiar with genetics and genetic engineering, and as a consumer, I am also well aware of the debate on whether or not to buy and eat genetically modified products. So the goal today is to inform you on some things you should be aware of when you're trying to make a decision about whether or not to support GMOs. I'm going to go over what exactly GMOs are, the major concerns people have about them, and how you can't always trust what you're being told about them. Now, to start off, what exactly are GMOs? According to the World Health Organization's definition, GMOs are plants, animals, or microorganisms in which have their genetic material, which is the DNA, altered in a way that does not occur naturally through mating or recombination. So an example of a GMO would be, say, corn that has a gene inserted into it that would make it resistant to certain pests. Now, scientists do this in a pretty simple way by using bacteria to insert those genes. So they'll take the bacteria here and insert the gene of interest into it, and then they will take that bacteria and insert it into the cells of the plant here. And what that bacteria does is it will take its DNA and insert it into the genes of the plant cells. So then when the plant is grown, it will express those genes there. Now, even though it's pretty cool, it's pretty great scientific innovation, with all innovations comes skepticism and concerns. So one of the major concerns people have about GMOs is that they are dangerous for your health. Mostly, some of their concerns are with allergenics that can show up. So genes code for certain proteins, and those proteins carry out certain functions, and some of those proteins become allergenics. Another concern is gene transfer. So when you eat produce, food, vegetables, whatever, the DNA is mostly digested in your stomach, but some of it stays intact. So the concern is that the bacteria in your digestive tract will take in those genes that could be perhaps antibiotic resistant genes. And that bacteria will then be resistant to some of our medicines. Another concern is for the environment. One of the problems we could have is with outcrossing, which is when genetically modified plants transfer their genes onto other natural plants. And this happens by pollen in the wind or whatever. So one of the big things with this is that, say, corn that's resistant to herbicides could transfer its genes to weeds, which are then becoming herbicide resistant, which leads me to the next point of weeds and insects becoming more resistant to herbicides and pesticides. And so what happens with this is that it's not only the GMOs that are contributing to this. Monocultures are one of the big things that contribute, and monocultures are croplands that grow only one certain type of crop, so cornfields. The problem with this is that pests and diseases spread very easily, and so that's a big problem we have. And then another problem is that we overspray our herbicides and pesticides, and this is putting pressure on pests, and it's making them more resistant because the resistant ones are just multiplying with each other, and there's more of them and we can't control them anymore. So to try and shed a little more light on the concerns we have, scientists, government organizations, corporations have been doing tests on GMOs. The problem is that they're either showing their results too soon when they don't fully understand them, or they're not giving you 100% of all the information. So I know I find this is very frustrating for me when I'm trying to decide which side to support. So one of the examples I found was in an article written by Will Saleton in July 2015, which was about GMOs, and it discussed a study done on genetically modified papayas. And in these papayas, they had a certain gene sequence that was similar to sequences found to make allergenics. And it was just one portion of this gene sequence. So many tests were done with this, and people were getting a little freaked out about it, but then other tests were done on ordinary corn, which was found to have similar sequences So it turned out that it wasn't something people really needed to be worrying about. Another thing that anti-GMO groups are pushing for are putting labels on GMOs. And so what those would look like would just be like our regular produce stickers we have, but on them it would say GMO just like this. And the problem with this is that even though you think you're being more informed with those labels on them, you really aren't. You could be buying perhaps non-GMO food that would end up being more harmful to you than GMOs would be. So for example, if I picked a non-GMO tomato over a GMO tomato, I could be picking a tomato that was sprayed with more pesticides, which have more harmful things in it for me, and that didn't necessarily have anything saying what was on it. One of the other main things that is concerning people with whether or not they can trust facts is because large corporations, which are lobbying the government and have control over all the research done on their products, that they aren't sharing all the truthful information. We don't know if what they're saying is 100% correct or if it's just them trying to promote their products. So as I'm wrapping things up here, sometimes it's easy to focus on what we know. What we do know is that the population is increasing and the soil and the land we have for crop production is decreasing. So we need to be able to make enough food to support all these people, and GMOs are trying to help do that. But as we move forward with them, we need to keep in mind the concerns we have about them and be cautious. We also need to make sure that we're making informed decisions based on truthful facts. So as you take a step back and try and think about everything and decide which side you support, just keep in mind that GMOs may not be the main problem to these health concerns and especially the environmental concerns we have. We need to think about agriculture working together as a whole system, focus on how we can change it as a whole. So when you're considering which side to pick, please consider whether or not GMO should have a future in agriculture. Thank you.